Hello and welcome to another chance to do something to help cut crime. As always, the programme is live, actual witnesses have taken part in our reconstructions and the detectives leading our investigations are here waiting for your call. If you prefer, you can ask to speak to a BBC researcher, and for those who are hard of hearing, here's the Minicom number.
How do you find 3 calculating killers when all you have to go on is some fairly vague descriptions? Well, the answer is see if something clicks with someone watching Crimewatch. What we do know is the men may well come from South London, they're probably in their late 30s, and they seem to have access to a well-kept white Orion car. Their victim was Nimel Samarasina, often known as Sam, who lived in Wallington in Surrey with his daughter Michelle and his wife Florence.
Sam worked for a helicopter company in Surrey as a licensed avionics engineer, maintaining and repairing airborne electronics. He frequently worked evenings and Saturdays and Sundays.
What are you watching?
There's something on the TV.
Come on.
Dad.
Come on, you learn something. Come on.
Hey.
Sam enjoyed as much time as possible with Michelle, his only child. He'd spent several years working abroad, and now he was home for good. She was the centre of his life.
See, it's a bit tricky, isn't it?
He used to come at weekends with his daughter Michelle. You could always tell where they were and everything like that. There was always laughter wherever they went. Anybody could talk to him. If anybody had a problem, they could always talk to Sam.
The night of Wednesday, January the 22nd, midnight.
Hey, what's going on?
I just saw this bloke run off over there. Are you all right? I saw your door open.
Yeah, of course we're all right. I'm just trying to get some sleep, that's all.
Well, I'm just a neighbour trying to help you out. All right.
Okay.
Cheers.
It's all right. Yes. Police. I don't know. It might not be important, but something rather strange has just happened.
The police could find no sign of forced entry and failed to trace the helpful neighbour. Was it you? Then, next day...
I was taking my dog his usual morning walk, which was around about 7:15. And as I was going along Domain Road, I was aware of this white car that was coming towards me. And then it stopped across the junction and then turned into Carew Road. I went across the road as I normally do, and then it backed across the main road and up Bandon Rise, and the whole thing just seemed very, very peculiar to me. I became aware that the driver was Asian, and as was the passenger, and then it just halted.
A few days later, Nimel, worried by the strange incident on his doorstep, installed an alarm system and a dummy security camera. The last day of Nimel Samarasina's life, 6:45 a.m. on Thursday, the 30th of January.
As I crossed the road, but I noticed a white Orion. It's in exceptionally good condition, very clean. The windows on it were not frosted. As I looked inside the car, I see a chubby Asian guy, probably 40, 45 years of age, with a load of hair pushed back off his face, very bushy, and he had a big, sort of puffed up beige jacket he was wearing.
Do you know who this was? He had a perfect view of the front and garage entrances to Nimel's house.
I was scraping the ice off of my car and just happened to look across the road, and there was a white Ford Orion there, and a man sitting in it with the dried his window down. He looked about 35, thin face, thin nose, and a flat cap, just looking across towards the main road. I felt that there was somebody looking at me, and I just happened to look round, and he was looking across at me, and started the engine of the car up, drove to the end of the turn-in and turned right till he was out of view.
Where's your shampoo, Michelle?
Up there, yours, Dad.
I was walking down towards the mains road and I heard a loud noise which sounded like metal against metal. And I looked across and I saw a man standing on the inside of the gate looking up towards the garages.
Help! Please, someone help! Come on, let's go!
Niemel Sammarasino was killed by a single powerful knife blow to his heart.
It had the hallmarks of a paid assassination. There's a reward, a very big reward indeed. If you can help to prove who did it, if you've heard any gossip, if you can help identify or eliminate any of the people in the White Orion, do please call right away, 081 811 8181. Or perhaps you know who this is. He was seen in an alley behind the shops in Stafford Road, just round the corner from Niemel's house. It was then about 8:45 a.m. The date again, Thursday, the 30th of January. The number again, 081 811 8181. Or you can call Wallington Police Station in Surrey on 081 669 2214. That's 081 669 2214.
Well, looking back at last month's programme, while the programme was still on the air on one particular appeal, 11 viewers rang, each giving the same name for a man police thought might have information regarding a robbery. Within the hour, a man was arrested and charged. And in our February programme, we appealed for your help to identify a man who'd been robbing building societies in the north and west of England. In the last few days, a Crimewatch viewer has given information which has led to a man being arrested and charged. It's photo call that often brings the quickest information, and here to take us through the faces are Superintendent David Hatcher and Detective Constable Jackie Hames.
Are you a chess enthusiast? If so, you may well have come across Brian Russell Ely. In 1972, he was the British champion and is probably still a keen player. Police in South Yorkshire investigating sexual offences would like to speak to him. He comes from Rotherham but hasn't been seen since last July. Brian Russell Ely is 45 years old, 6'1" tall and has sandy-coloured hair. If you know where he is now, please call.
Maybe you recognise this man. He's seen here trying to buy a camcorder with a stolen credit card at Jessop's in Newcastle. It had been stolen that day, Wednesday the 22nd of January, from Newcastle University. Other cards are also taken and have since been used in the Midlands. The man is in his early 20s and was wearing a distinctive jacket. It had the word Nicholson on the back. So if you recognise him, please ring now.
Next, if you work in the computer business, you might have met Eric and Ipex Saunders. Northants and Essex Police would like to talk to them about a series of deceptions. During the past few months, nearly £50,000 worth of rented computer equipment has gone missing. Eric and Ipex Saunders were last seen in Wellingborough last February. They're believed to be driving a hired white Fiat Tipo, registration number G644TKO. Eric Saunders also uses the name Jonathan Harmon. He's 26, 5'10" and has a London accent. His wife Ipek is Turkish, 5'3" and dresses smartly. So if you know where they are now, please call.
Maybe you recognise this man. He's robbed several building societies in Greater London, threatening staff with a gun. He's been seen at a number of different branches between September and January. He's between 45 and 50, 5'5" to 5'9", and staff say he's very plausible. Perhaps you know him. Or indeed, if you recognise any of our other photo call faces, do please call.
And here's the number, 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181.
You may recall a photo call appeal we made back in September on a man called Cornish Bob. Now, astonishingly, you may think, magistrates in Devon had seen fit to release him on bail despite the fact he was facing charges of 2 serious sexual assaults. Well, again, astonishing you might think, or rather not astonishing in this case, he failed to reappear in court, and a year later he committed at least 2 further rapes, this time in Middlesex. But 2 days after our appeal, a Crimewatch viewer spotted him in a pub in Notting Hill in West London and called the police. He was arrested while still drinking at the bar. He pleaded guilty to 3 charges of sexual offences involving children. He's now been sentenced to 7 years.
Our next case is a series of robberies in London. There have in fact been 7 since the beginning of last month, and police believe there's every reason to expect more unless you can help. In the film that follows, the victims themselves have helped us reconstruct what happened.
One of the guys said to me, "Give me the keys." He just grabbed me and said, "Get in the car," and shoved me in the back of my car. I was in the back of the car with my head down, and every time I looked up or tried to move everything, they said, "Don't look at us, don't look at us, keep your head down or we'll kill you." The whole time through the whole ordeal, I really thought they were going to kill me. They said, "Give me your keys, your wallet, your watch, everything. If you don't give us everything, we find any more, we're going to kill you." It was just very, very terrifying. I've never been in a situation like that, and I never want to be in one again.
You're getting out. Don't try anything. I'll be watching you.
By the time they reached this bureau de change, they'd been driving around in his blue Golf for more than an hour.
I thought if I comply with them, do everything they say, they'll let me go. They kept on saying that, but as the ordeal went longer and longer, I realised that everything they said, they just changed their mind all the time. Once I did what they said, they just asked me to do something else. When I had the opportunity to get away, I just ran like hell.
OK, chaps. Well, we've had 2 jobs now, and it strikes me that we've got the beginning of a series here. They're armed, they're dangerous, and they certainly put their victims through a terrifying ordeal. Fortunately, we have a video from the first job, which is particularly good on one of the men. We're not going to release it yet, but I'll let you see it now. I've got some stills to show you from this video, but watch the whole video first.
Witnesses described this man as having greasy hair and an unhealthy appearance. The day after that briefing, the 2 men used the Golf for their next hold-up.
Open it.
There's an inner safe which is on the time. It won't open for 15 minutes.
Right, well, we'll wait.
I was in a state of real shock at the time. I felt like I was sort of underwater and everything was happening in slow motion. I'd seen a customer actually in the shop as they'd come in, and I just hoped, like mad, that this customer would have realised what was going on.
Stop! The customer had seen what happened and flagged down a passing police van.
I think there's a robbery going on at the wine rack.
Christ, get out! Move!
Both of the men were armed. The Moroccan-looking man with the scarred face and black hat had a knife, and the white man had a gun. As I chased them from the shop, the white man was pointing the gun at me, and the Moroccan man was shouting, "Shoot him, shoot him." They sped off in the blue Golf GTI and were last seen heading towards Wandsworth Bridge.
All right, thanks for that. OK, so far we've had 5 offences. 3 of them have been in Hampstead, close to the Finchley Road, 1 at Chelsea and the 1 at Fulham. It's pretty clear that these men are dangerous. They're armed. It's my opinion they're not going to stop until they're caught.
Get in the car. Keep your head down.
I really had absolutely no idea what they wanted. It could have been anything. I was very scared. What would happen to me if I did get into the car? So that was why I tried to get the gun. It was a split-second thing. I thought it was the lesser of 2 evils.
Well, Bob Fenton joins us in the studio. Presumably you wouldn't advise anyone to tackle anyone who's armed.
No, we tell people not to resist in these situations, but you can never account for people who react on the spur of the moment. It's human nature.
Now, are you sure all these attacks have been carried out by the same 2 men?
Yes, we're positive. There are 3 things that link them. The descriptions which have been given are particularly good, and they carry through all these offences. The vehicles themselves carry on from one offence to another. In other words, one stolen is then used in the next offence. And the general areas of the offences and the method is very, very similar.
All right. Can we have the descriptions then of those 2 men? The very good one, first of all, the man in the video.
Yes, there is a very clear picture of him. He's 20s, early 30s, 5'8" to 5'10" tall. He's slim, particularly slim in the face. He wears glasses, but he sometimes wears different type of glasses in style.
And scruffily dressed.
And scruffily dressed. In fact, someone described the clothing as sort of jumble sailish.
So somebody, I'm sure, will recognise him. What about the second man?
The second man is described variously. He has been described as of mixed race and also North African Mediterranean type. He's in his 20s. He's slightly taller, 5'10" to 6 feet tall, and there is a suggestion that he has a scar on his left cheek running from the eye downwards.
Now, one clue might be that somebody may have seen the blue Golf GTI during the time the robbers had it. That was between the 12th of March and the 16th of March.
Yes, this vehicle, in fact, was abandoned in the multi-storey car park in West Ealing behind British Home Stores, and I would appeal to anyone that may have seen this vehicle during that period to come forward.
And of course, the other car, they still have the BMW, the black BMW.
Yes, in fact, the black BMW has in fact been used in one other offence, which is not recorded here today. Friday of last week, between 3 and 4 in the afternoon, the man that's described as the Arab-type man, in fact, committed an armed robbery with a knife at a petrol station in Acton. He was believed to be on his own, and that particular vehicle was used.
Right, so that was 6 days ago, and that means there have now been 7 attacks altogether.
Yes.
So you still very much believe, do you, that what you said in the film, that these men will only stop once they've been caught?
Yes, they are clearly desperados. When they were in the wine rack, they were quite prepared to wait for 20 minutes, even while members of the public came in and were being served, for that time not to come off. And as you saw, they went and attacked the officers as well on there to get away. I'm quite sure that these men are not going to stop until they're arrested. The first victim was particularly shocked in this incident. He still hasn't got over it to this day.
Right. Mr. Fenton, thank you very much indeed. If you do recognise the man in the video, if you know anything at all about these attacks, your call could really prevent other people suffering. Here's the number if you can help. It's 081 811 8181. Or you can call the incident room in Kensington, and that's another London number, 081 741 6001. That's 081 741 6001.
Well, on photo call, we've now got either names or sightings of everyone. In one case, that's in the camcorder fraud, I've so far seen 4 callers who've come in. All of them have given the same name, and 2 of them have suggested an address, so we'll keep you up to date with that. On the Nimel Samarasina murder, quite a large volume of calls there. Somebody's put up an individual name of a suspect with a potential reason for it, and someone else has suggested a motive, which are called to something else police already know. So again, if more happens, obviously, we'll let you know. Let's now go to Incident Desk. Here to take us through the cases, Detective Constable Jackie Hames and Superintendent David Hatcher.
First, a case that's close to my own heart. Last year there were about 16,000 attacks on police officers in England and Wales. Tonight we're going to tell you about one of the worst. The victim was Detective Constable Jim Morrison. Jackie Hames takes up the story.
It happened on one of the days leading up to Christmas, here in London's Covent Garden. If you were late night shopping or in one of the nearby cafes, during the evening of Friday the 13th of December, you might have seen something.
How you doing then, Ron? No worries, mate. You?
Jim had finished work and was having a drink in his local, the Nell Gwyn in Covent Garden.
Well, I must away.
Can you have another drink?
No, can't. I'm running late. Got to get home. See you soon.
No worries.
We now know Jim didn't go home immediately, but what did he do in the next 45 minutes? At 10:20, he was seen struggling with a handbag thief, not far from the pub. Two men leaving their sports club at the same time remembered Jim chasing after the man.
Stop! Back off! Back off!
At the end of the alley, they turned left into Tavistock Street. The witnesses thought the man was of North African appearance, between 27 and 30 and around 5'10". He was wearing a dark brown leather bomber jacket. Jim chased the man through Covent Garden into the Aldwych. Jim was fatally stabbed. The killer left behind this handbag, which we now know was stolen from the Blue Post pub in Tottenham Court Road earlier that evening. We've traced the owner, but there are 3 things inside which don't belong to her. Perhaps they were stolen from you that evening. This fake Louis Vuitton makeup bag, a Ventolin inhaler, and a contact lens case. If they're yours, or you can help in any way, do please ring. This makeup was also found. It's been well used and could have been dropped from the Louis Vuitton bag. So if you do recognise anything at all, the number to ring is 071 230 2301, and that's straight through to New Scotland Yard. Or of course you can ring the programme direct.
And next, do you recognise this cap? It's got a distinctive tiger motif on the front and was worn by an armed robber in Norwich. The attack took place on March the 11th when a Securicor guard was held up outside the British Gas showroom in the town centre. The robber made his getaway on this stolen Honda 250cc motorcycle before he abandoned it by these garages in Trinity Street. He's described as around 24, 5'8" and slim build. So if you think you know who he is, please call.
If you recognise this man, you could help Sussex police catch a rapist. It happened on Wednesday the 4th of December in Hove. A music student was walking home from the Floral Clock area in Salisbury Road when a man forced her down an alleyway. He threatened to kill her and then raped her. Too scared to move, she waited in the alleyway until daylight before reporting her ordeal. The man has brown hair, is about 5'9" and is in his late 20s to early 30s. He's a smoker and had a northeast accent. So if you know where he is now, please call.
Can you help the police in Blackpool find this man? He could help solve an armed robbery. On the 14th of January, he bought this car from a local garage. Later that day, it was used in a robbery at Northwest Pawnbrokers in the town centre. He's in his late 20s, about 5'6", and has a strong Liverpool accent. If you do know who he is, or can help in any way with any of our incident desk cases, please call.
And this is the number, 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181. In fact, Incident Desk last month produced a lot of calls, although no results that we can report to you as yet. And there was a good response to all our reconstructions. The appeal on Leslie Moleseed produced 229 calls, despite the fact that the murder happened 17 years ago. 3 important new witnesses have been traced from the jewellery raid in Guildford in Surrey, and Aladdin's Cave turned up trumps. Durham police have now returned almost all the property they had here on display. Also last month, you may remember, we asked for your help to find the killer of Joe Rylett, the manager of a betting shop in Lincoln. Well, 2 weeks ago, police identified the murder weapon, an 18-inch axe. It was found by a Crimewatch viewer while he was walking on the island in Bolton Park Lake at Lincoln. The viewer recognised it from a description on the programme. The blade, as you can see, appears to have been painted with a grey primer type of paint, and across the blade are the words Skinner and Johnson. This means, I think, that it was manufactured at least 40 years ago near Retford, and it was sold locally around the Lincoln area. So do you recognise that? If you do, please do call us. The incident room number direct is Lincoln 0522 529911. That's 0522 529911.
Now for this month's final reconstruction. Tracy Meade was 14 when she died. Why anyone should stab her is a mystery, and it's proving just as hard unravelling the last days of her life. It's in a tower block off the Harrow Road in London, near an area called Little Venice, but Tracy often spent the night with relatives not far away in Kensal Rise. Tracy had been playing truant. In fact, she'd barely been to school for months, and used to sit around with friends or wander through the streets of northwest London. Our reconstruction features actresses, but Tracy's real mother and other witnesses have also taken part.
Hi, good evening. Can I help you at all?
Yeah, I've come about my daughter. I'm really worried. I think she's gone missing.
What's your daughter's name, please?
It's Tracy Meade.
And how old is Tracy?
She's 14. She's never done anything like this before.
When was the last time you saw Tracy?
It's Monday evening. She spent the day up her nan's, that's 65 Lothrop Street. Her mates often went round there to call for her.
One of her friends had called on her the afternoon she disappeared.
You coming out?
No, I can't. I've got to take Tanya down to Mum's later, so...
Well, you staying down here tonight?
No, I'm going to come back here later.
Tracy showed no sign that she planned anything unusual.
That's at Drip Street.
All right then, so if I'm not there...
Tracy was my best friend for about a year. She always had a happy smile on her face and was always joking and laughing about. We never really used to do much when we went out except go in each other's houses, watch videos or listen to music.
All right then, I better go because my mum's got my dinner.
Tracy said she'd knock back for me that night, but she never did, and that was the last time I see her.
Around 5:30, Tracy took her younger sister, Tanya, from their nan's house back to the Warwick estate to their mother's flat.
We're a pretty close family, and Tracy used to like staying at my sister's and my mum's, and she never did like my flat because we're stuck on the 6th floor.
Sounds lovely.
That night she just seemed her normal self, like nothing different about her, or not moody or anything like that. It was, you know, just her plain self, like she normally is every day.
Mum, I'm going to go into school tomorrow, so could I have some bus fare, please?
It's costing me a fortune.
In fact, as usual, Tracy didn't go to school next day, and so far as is known, when she disappeared, she only had her bus fare to her name.
Being the parent of a teenager, you've got to trust them. That's what I did with Tracy. I trusted her. I don't know what went wrong.
Right, what are you doing tonight?
I'm going to go and stay at Auntie Jackie's tonight.
But I found out earlier today that she hadn't gone up my sister's that night like she said, and she hadn't gone to school the next day either. And I'm really worried.
Right, well, let's get all our details down for a missing persons report.
Kim Meade wasn't satisfied that the police were acting with sufficient urgency. And 3 days after she'd last seen Tracy, she began to go searching through the neighbourhood in her own attempt to find out what had happened.
Have you seen her?
No. I went round all Tracy's friends and people who knew her. And then when I got back, I heard that a young girl had seen her on the Wednesday, the day I reported her missing. She said she saw Tracy underneath the Halfpenny Steps bridge near the Harrow Road, rowing with a boy who was a bit taller than Tracy and had fair hair. The bridge isn't far from where my mum lives.
Nearly 2 weeks after Tracy disappeared, a girl much like her was seen some 3 miles from her home.
Love. Yeah, if I keep going down that way, will I still be in Shepherd's Bush? No, you're going towards Acton up there. What are you looking for? Adams Cafe. Adams? Yeah. Have you looked in the markets? Oh, I'm not sure where it is. Well, there's loads of cafes up there. I'm walking up that way. Do you want to walk up there with me? Yeah, okay then. Okay, come on.
I'm supposed to be meeting my boyfriend and his mates in Adams Cafes.
Right, well, there's loads of cafes down there. I should start working your way around the outside.
Okay, then. Thanks for your help.
All right, hope you find him.
Bye.
If this wasn't Tracy, and you know who it might have been, do call us so that she could be eliminated from the inquiry. Three hours later, at 4:30 on Friday the 31st of January, 2 girls went into a cafe on the Gold Hawk Road. Again, do you know who they were?
Yeah, do you fancy pie mash? Yeah, ready for. Oh, you love it. Could I have 2 pie mash, please? Take away.
I do remember the 2 girls coming in. They looked as though they'd been sleeping rough. They was very clean and tidy, but very tired. The young girl who ordered the pie mash had black bobbed hair. She was very pretty looking, but also very young looking. The girl with blonde hair had something stuffed under her jacket, but I don't know what it was.
Next afternoon, on Saturday the 1st of February, Tracy's body was recovered from the Grand Union Canal near Kensal Rise. Tracy had drowned quite recently after being stabbed.
Colin Wright, what do you think happened?
Tracy was a streetwise kid. She had lots and lots of friends. I believe she went to that canal with somebody who she knew.
One person or perhaps a group of people?
No, I believe she would have gone there with a group. She was that sort of girl who had surrounded herself with lots of friends.
Are you suggesting this wasn't a premeditated murder or even a spontaneous, deliberate attack, but maybe a prank that went wrong?
It's my own personal opinion, Nick, that she went there with a group of friends and things led on, and unfortunately Tracy ended in the canal. She was stabbed but drowned.
Now, the stab wounds were relatively superficial, weren't they? I mean, she either was pushed or stumbled into the
That could be, we'll never know.
It looked as though it was a sex attack, I gather. I mean, as though there was some sexual motive in as much as some of her clothes were found in one location and some in another, and she was only partly clothed.
She was partially clothed when she was found in the canal. I believe that was probably the motive. I believe that she may have gone there with a group of other children, and things progressed far more than she expected.
Now, you're suggesting there are going to be several kids who live in that area who know what happened or have heard gossip, heard talk about it.
I'm almost sure, my intuition leads me to believe that there's children out there, some of them who may be close friends, who know just what went on that night.
They may be very worried about ringing in, frankly.
They may well be, but I can assure them that I will treat them with discretion, I will treat them fairly, but I need to speak to them because they hold the clue to this murder.
You think you're going to find the answer in time from friends of hers, from people? Do you think it's going to come out, if not tonight, eventually you'll find out how this happened?
There are some people out there who must be worrying about this at the moment, and I know eventually one of them will come forward. I would prefer that to be now rather than later.
Now, there's this missing 2 weeks in Tracy's life. There she was saying that she'd be with her nan. That was about middle of January, and then she wasn't found till the very end of January, in fact the first day of February. You've no idea where she was at that time?
There's no suggestion, Nick, that she was kidnapped. She went away of her own volition. She wasn't distressed or upset. She was around the Harrow Road and Paddington area, and she'd been seen on a number of occasions. So we know she was living somewhere, but where that was, we've not found out.
Wherever she was staying, she might have left a T-shirt like this, because this is the T-shirt she was wearing when she left home.
That was a T-shirt, a similar T-shirt to this, a little bit dark,
not the
I think.
one that she was found with when she died.
That's right.
Now, what about all these sightings of people? Are they red herrings? Do you want people to come forward and say, that was me, you can eliminate me from this inquiry, or are you pretty sure that they really were Tracy?
We're not too sure, and I don't think we will be sure until those people come forward, but the descriptions are so similar, we'd obviously like to trace those people.
especially the young girl with the bob-type haircut who was seen in the pie and mash shop.
Oh, well, there she is. I mean, if that was you and you had nothing to do with Tracy, don't know her, please ring us. If you do know Tracy, that was you, do please ring us. There was a boy, of course, seen with her arguing, it seemed, under a bridge. Again, just could have been a friend of hers.
That's right, yes, just under the halfpenny steps there, a young boy of age about 16, blondish hair with a white baseball cap. Now, I'd like him to come forward because that could also save us a lot of time.
OK, well, if you know anything about this whatsoever, do please call us now. Remember, you can speak to a BBC researcher if you want, rather than to a police officer. The number's there, 081 811 8181. Or you can call the Kensington Incident Room on 071 937 7945. 071 937 7945.
Well, here on the phones, the information's coming in quite slowly, but it's quite good information. On that series of armed attacks in London, a caller has given a name for the first man, and we've had several suggestions and information on the second man coming in. Somebody has rung to claim the makeup is hers in the appeal for the stabbing of the police officer, Jim Morrison. There have been calls on all our photocall cases, and the information on most of those is being followed up as we speak. And on the baseball cap left behind after the Norwich robbery, a lot of viewers are ringing in to point out it's the emblem of the Chicago Bears, so thanks very much for that. We now need something a bit more specific. More calls, more news later, but instead of our usual Aladdin's Cave tonight, we've got more of a market stall. And to help us, we had some smaller than usual guests in the studio here this afternoon. Well, these children's clothes are unique. If you recognise them and you didn't buy them from Christine Gray's shop in Greenwich Market, well, they've been stolen. The clothes are all very distinctive, and each one has its own label with ME on it. So if you recognise any of those clothes there, we'd like to hear from you as soon as possible. Well, picture frames just like these were stolen in Maida Vale in London quite recently. 11 frames altogether. They're all ornately carved and gilded, and they all date back to the 18th and 19th centuries. They're actually worth about £70,000 altogether. So if you've seen any of these since the end of January, you've definitely seen stolen property. These towels here, which look more like blankets, but they are in fact towels, they're part of a consignment that came from Portugal earlier this month. They were destined for Marks and Spencer's, and they're the first batch of these ever to enter the country. So if you spot any of these, there's no doubt about it, they've been half-inched. And 6 tonnes, that's £100,000 worth of Wrangler T-shirts like these, were stolen from a warehouse at Heathrow Airport last month. They were made in Egypt, and each of them has a distinctive label. And once again, they were the first batch ever to enter this country. So if you've seen any of these, please do call us. And finally, if you're a relative of the Elliot clan, but if you've come across some silverware like this bearing their crest, then we'd like to hear from you. These 15 miniature portraits of their ancestors were also taken, and in total, the robbers got away with about £30,000 worth from the House of Elliot in Newcastleton in the Scottish borders. So if you can help on any of those things, if you recognise any of them, please ring us. The number to remind you is 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181.
Do bear with us if you're trying to get through on the lines at the moment. There's such a volume of calls, particularly on photo call, that it might be quite difficult to get through, but please do persevere. Most of the photo call items have got a big response, particularly on Eric and Epec Saunders, where we've got several suggested sightings, and the police are now very optimistic about the camcorder robber. On the Hove rape, a caller has said the same man has raped several other women. A name has been given, and the caller thinks he went to school with the offender. Quite a lot of information coming in, about which more as the night goes on. Incidentally, in 12 days' time, watch out for a brand new series with stories that we've always wanted to bring you, but which really don't form part of Crimewatch. It's called Crime Limited, the world of criminals, the courts, the victims and police, crime and how to limit it. Tuesdays at 8:30 here on 1. We'll be back tonight at 20 to 12 with Crimewatch Update. The lines are staying open until then, but if that's beyond your bedtime, do remember, most crime is relatively minor, and a great deal can be stopped by plain common sense, like simply locking up. So don't have nightmares, do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.
I'm doing other crimes here.